This is the Tri-State Time Machine, brought to you by Alex R. White, PLLC, at SueDistractedDriver.com. Each week, your host, Vanessa Hankins, and her guests share memories and stories about the past, the present, and the future of the Tri-State area. That's West Virginia, Kentucky, and the Ohio areas. If you used to live here, or you currently live here, you're going to catch yourself saying out loud, "Wow, I remember that." Now, here's Vanessa.
Hey guys, it's Vanessa. It's been a minute, but here you are, listening to the Tri-State Time Machine. We have some seriously rainy weather, so I think it's a good opportunity to jump into the podcast studio and record some stories about Huntington. I'm here with my guest, Jason Arthur.
Absolutely. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Really excited about this episode because we're talking Huntington's history and where we have led to today. Huntington is overwhelmingly rich in history. I think I can say that without any doubt that there's no one that can disagree. We have multiple families, we have multiple industries, we have multiple, let's just go with personalities that made us who we are today and are still shaping what this city is.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about Holderby Landing and how we became Huntington.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So the Holderby family, obviously, some people know about it being Holderby's Landing, and some people don't. They just think about Huntington and Collis P and the tie-ins with that. But actually, there was a guy by the name of James Holderby. He was born in the 1700s, believe it or not. He divided property between his two sons. And it was a lot of just basic farmland around the Ohio River, and they actually had a place that was truly a landing, Holderby's Landing, and tied in with our rivers.
Which is like the coolest thing. Like you think about history, and you're like, oh, where did they get that?
Yeah.
Well, common sense. They got Holderby's Landing
from
common sense. They got it from common sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So let's skip down the way a little bit about what became of Huntington with our train depot, heritage station, and how we started the industries that built Huntington.
Yeah, so I mean, again, with, I guess you would say, the leadership of the Holderby family, they really did a great job of kind of just working with the land, working with the river. Transportation at that time, that was the transportation.
Right, exactly.
So they did that well. Luckily, we got another tie-in from a very innovative guy that had a lot of tie-ins to bigger cities with Collis P. Huntington, which is now our namesake.
I was going to say, that's one everyone's going to recognize very easily.
Absolutely.
If you didn't recognize the Holderbys. Well, let's talk about him for just a second. Tell us all the things that he brought to the table when it come to Huntington.
Yeah, so funny enough, when gold was discovered in California in I guess it was the mid-1800s, he went west, became a rich man, had all these tie-ins, and got involved with railroads and things like that. And he then, I think it was, again, in the 1800s, he purchased the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway and just started kind of taking over with tracks and going through West Virginia and the Ohio River, which at that point, you got to think how innovative that was. That
I was going to say, it's like he came in and was just like, let me buy it all and let me lead you guys in this direction.
Yeah.
Which is super cool.
Used what used to be the only transportation to help bring in a new transportation.
Now, he partnered with the Emmons family, correct? Am
Correct.
I wrong on that?
Yeah. So with the Emmons family, again, big wigs. I mean, you're talking, I really don't think that people understand the rich history we have, just as big as New York City, Chicago, all these places,
And
D.C.
I think a lot of people, when they hear Emmons, they just think of the Emmons building. They don't realize where that building's namesake came from.
Right. So you had the Emmons family, Dallas Emmons, married actually Collis's sister.
And they had the C&O, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So there was their tie-ins, and they started again doing what we were doing. It was kind of an industrial revolution at this point. You had your river, you had your rail. People were wanting to make money. We had all the lumber and all these things. So everybody's buying up all this land and just using all this transportation to, let's be quite honest, just make money. And so when you have money, what are you going to do? You're just going to spend money, and it's going to create even more for the region, and that's exactly what happened.
So that created that link that we have from the Virginias, from the James River and Richmond to the Ohio Valley, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that, I mean, again, overwhelming rich history that we have. Jason and I were talking before we started recording. I am not a Huntington resident, as you guys all know, but I get so wrapped up in the history of Huntington because it's so, it's just intriguing to me to see how these families came from all over America and tied into, hey, we're going to make this place, this industrial, revitalized location, basically. Like, we're going to take farmland and we're going to build all these industries and we're going to make some money while we're doing it, which is exactly what they did.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to think, to go from a blank slate with these men and say, we're going to use this river and all this farmland and woods to create this metropolis of just great things, and look at all the things that followed even into today,
right,
with our, our phenomenal university and the tie-ins that we had with John Marshall, and
right,
those are tie-ins with George Washington and so on. I mean, this is big time stuff.
It really is. And I think that can lead us into discussing how we were incorporated in 1871 and got our first mayor.
Yeah, absolutely.
We became official.
It's, again, all these rich tie-ins, when you start talking about all these people and how they came about and the way they did things, and Mr. Buffington was our first. Now, we had, a lot of people don't realize this, but Central City was just right down the road. You had Holderby's Landing. Now you have Huntington.
So we're slowly building.
Right. It's building, and it's building fast.
It's shaping fast, very, very quickly.
And, even you go down and look at our south side and in the Highland District, these homes, for the most part, were all built around the same time period. Everybody needed homes because of all this, again, your oil companies, your railroad. You had all the lumber and all this stuff. So with that comes, you got to have workers. Well, workers need homes, and they have families, and so this place was booming.
And we were kind of talking before we started recording. Super interesting how Huntington was never built to be a home for anyone, but because we had so much industry and so much demand for housing, it became home very quickly. Yeah. And still thankful that it did, because I can't imagine living anywhere else but Huntington.
Yeah, and me either. I tell people all the time, I've traveled a lot. I've lived in other big cities and things like that, but nothing is home to me other than Huntington. Huntington is a passion to me. So many people want to constantly just ridicule and be negative and all these things. At that point, all you're doing is griping. You're not trying to be part of the solution.
Right.
And I have a real problem with that. Every place you go, I don't care if you're in Chicago or wherever you're at, you're going to have problems.
Absolutely.
But do you want to gripe about it and sit there and do nothing, or do you want to get off?
Right. Or do you want to, I'll go ahead and say it, do you want to get off your ass and do something about it? Yes.
Just get up and do something. Be a part of that solution.
Absolutely.
Help people. And that's what these guys were doing.
Absolutely. And thankful that they did, because that led us into the history that we get to talk about today. I mean, let's jump into the Huntington bank robbery in 1875. Let's talk about that. That's a fun one.
That's a real fun one. So the James gang, it's funny to even think that we would have a tie-in with that. Funny enough, we were talking before we got started here. Mm-hmm. There's really no written documentation. Yeah, there's a little plaque down at Heritage Station, and I mentioned I did find a home right off of in Milton,
which is super cool, guys. I didn't know about it.
And there's this old stone by this old house that I've been told is going to be tore down soon. But in that sandstone, there is engraved that this is where the James gang went after the robbery of the city of Huntington's bank.
Which is we were talking, and I'm like, I want to know the background of that. I want to know, did they hold the family up in that house?
Right.
Was it a bed and breakfast? Was it an old tavern? What was the situation? Inquiring minds need to know.
So if there's anybody out there that has any information on us, please give it to us.
Tell us now.
We want all the information.
We need to know all the things. What I thought was super cool is that those guys that robbed the bank had escaped out of Wayne County. They were already under arrest and had escaped to come and rob the bank, and then basically try to peace out. But I know they were convicted and later arrested after the conviction. And there's some skepticism of whether or not they were in the James gang or not, because Jesse James was nowhere in the area at the time. But, I mean, if they were under arrest in Wayne County, they're not hanging out waiting on their buddies to get out of jail.
Right.
They're off doing their own scandalous things. So,
Yep.
so I lean towards they were probably part of his gang.
I'm sure they were. I mean, it makes sense to, and I know people kind of want it because it makes the history more rich, but I really think there has to be a tie in there somewhere, because
be.
the word of mouth that's been passed down generations has always stuck to that.
Right. It's never veered.
Right.
It's never went off topic. So let's talk about something that I think is super cool, because I didn't know this until I was reading last night. We were the second American city to feature electric cars in the early years. Like, San Francisco was the first one, and
Yep.
that's normally who you think of when you think of electric streetcars. But we were the second. Like,
Yeah.
how cool is that?
That's huge, yeah. And we were talking about a little bit about that. Everybody knows the old bus barn down in the West End. Now it's a Sheets that is now turning into a new Sheets. They tore it down and redoing
Right.
it. But as kids, we all remember that bus barn and the history it had. But we really don't understand that before it was a flea market and all these other things, it was the original bus barn. That's where and you can still find some of the tracks in Huntington.
Yeah, if you go into the Wendy's that's next door to the Sheets where the bus barn was, they have some really cool pictures in
Yeah.
their lobby of the bus barn. I was telling Jason, a girlfriend of mine lived right next door to what is now a bingo hall, but it was Lowe's at the time, and we would walk over and go to the flea market, and that's where I got my first scrunchie that was Dallas Cowboys, and I just thought I was hot to trot with my Dallas Cowboys scrunchie on my left hand going into school the next day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we reminisce so much before we started. We're probably going to get ourselves in trouble here if we keep going down the rabbit holes we did beforehand. We'll be stuck here all day. But let's talk about the flood in '37. I think that's pretty momentous in Huntington, and you'll see, guys, we're not on any kind of outline here that we want to stick to. We're just talking off the tops of our heads about what has made Huntington what it is today and where it led us to where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the rich history that we have is just unbelievable, and I think that both of us being history fans, we just want people to get a taste of this so that they can pass it down too, and do your own research, get down your own rabbit holes. Yeah,
go down them, because you can. I got lost for 3 hours last night, and I feel like I know a lot about Huntington, but I feel like I've just scraped the very top layer.
Yeah.
When I started reading last night, I was just like, holy moly! Like, there's things that I had no clue about, like the real car thing. I just think that's so cool.
It is, and you talk about the flood. Obviously, we've got this massive flood wall system all the way down, lining our city. And even with some of your family tie-ins, some of the buildings that are a part of that, they
Right.
were flooded. I mean, people really had a hard time with this. A lot of our, we talk about this industrial revolution, and all these businesses, they all got flooded in that flood.
Which is wild to me that during that flood, as detrimental as it was to the community, it only claimed 5 lives, which, I mean, I think, how crazy.
Yeah.
How crazy. But I think that goes to show that we have always had this sense of community, that we are protecting one another.
100%.
Everyone was taking care of one another and saving lives as much as they could. So I think that's a testament to our people then and even now, that only 5 lives were lost. I know that caused like millions of dollars in damage, and it left over 10,000 people homeless. So
Right.
that was a big deal. So then we had to rebuild these grandiose homes again because they were lost to the flood. And
Yeah.
I like that you brought up the flood wall. I was thinking the other day, I had lunch over at the riverfront, and it's not, you don't go into other cities and see flood walls. You know they exist,
Right.
but you don't realize that other people don't have the history that we have. They didn't have a reason to build a flood wall. They didn't
Yeah.
have a reason to protect their land and their way of life, So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, we've incorporated it into who we are, because of that flood. And what made that happen was, again, it's a testament to our people here. We've always been hard, working class, caring people. We talk about these people. They all had family tie-ins. We're just a big family here. And I think that we really, really need to keep that going strong to make Huntington what it is. I think about a lot of times, even with the university, when we play other teams, they always talk about the hospitality of Huntington.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even when we go out of town, I think you'll see our people mingling at tailgates and things
Yeah.
like that with the other teams, because we're welcoming when people come to us. So,
That's what we do.
So we just
Yeah.
invite ourselves on in
Yeah.
and become their friends.
Absolutely.
I've made I probably countless friends over the years, from my college days to even as an adult, of people I've met on the road games. So I think that's super cool, and you're right. It's a testament to our people. So let's jump a little bit ahead of time, about another 12 years or so, to 1950, when the decline of steel and manufacturing industries happened, because that is when our population started declining, and we kind of landed where we are today because of those industries dying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, you did see those declines. And I think, listen, this wasn't just a here thing. It just seemed like it because we had so much industry here.
We did. We were very lucky to have as much as we did.
Right. And you even see the effect of unions. I tell people, always do your own research. You can see that the unions around that time started to decline as well.
Right.
And with that, unfortunately, comes, with older people starting to pass away, people start leaving for jobs. Now you have a decline. Now you have abandoned homes. It just, unfortunately happens.
Right, and that shift in the economic base, by the time like the 80s hit, we had to make a shift into education and tourism and services based in healthcare and medicine and biotechnology. And I think we did that pretty well. I think we handled that shift very, very well. Although many people did need to leave to follow industry, those of us that stayed, those families still thrived here.
Yes.
They were able to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the university helped with that too. It kept us young. It kept us on our feet. I know everybody says we're more than Marshall. We are, but Marshall and Huntington are one also.
Yeah, we're one.
We've always worked together. That's
right.
Even when, again, you look at these families, thank God we've had Marshall, but I can guarantee you Marshall says, thank God we had Huntington also.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. I love that. I might quote you on that.
All
at some
right,
point.
I like it.
And with that being said, I think another thing that we forget to be thankful for here in our community is that we have two very prestigious hospitals right here. We can literally reach our fingertips and touch each one of them. I was telling Jason again before we started recording, there's people that come from all over the region, Mason County, Gilbert, places that people are driving 2 to 3 hours to get to our hospitals for doctor's appointments.
Right.
For doctor's appointments. And we can go out our door and be at our doctor's appointments in 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about it. All of us around here know, I'll see what night's triage or whatever. I mean, we have
We're
that
not going
luxury.
to the ER at Cabell tonight. We're going to St. Mary's.
Right, where most people are like, we've got to travel hours to even find one. So we're very, very blessed with that. And Marshall's been very prominent in helping us keep those things strong as well.
Absolutely.
Marshall Health is huge for us.
Marshall Health is massive. And I'll go in a little bit personal here. I'm definitely a brat of Cabell. I was one of the kids running around taking my mom lunch when I was in elementary and middle school. She was a nurse. She retired from Cabell. I find it funny, and I laugh it's always with an older person on the elevator, always, because they're lost and I'm lost. And one lady made a comment to me about how big the hospital is, and I said, I just can't get it out of my head, the layout of the hospital when I was 16 years old. I remember driving over and feeling so big because I was driving my mom lunch for the first time. And I'm like, I'm going to carry her in this lunch, and I'm going to go up and sit in her break room with her, and I'm going to be such a big adult, you know. But still to this day, like, I will think that I know where I'm going in the hospital, and I don't know where I'm going because it has grown so much, and it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
If anything happens to our children here, if anything goes wrong with us health-wise, we're covered.
Yeah.
We are covered.
We even have a children's hospital,
We
the
have
Hoops
a children's
Children. I mean, that's
hospital, yes.
huge.
Yeah, they're fantastic. They were actually a really big sponsor in renovating Safety Town, of all things.
Yeah.
They're a very big supporter of anything child related. So they donated a lot of helmets to us. They did a lot of the renovation work, made a large donation. So again, just very thankful.
Yeah,
for them.
We're blessed with that family. I know their son really well. They've got a lot of tie-ins to not only our city, but the entire surrounding area. They're doing some major things up in Milton right now with building that new resort and the restaurants. I mean, listen, that's going to be huge for this area.
I can't wait to check it out. That's I told my husband, I was like, we won't even have to go out of the state now anymore. Like, we can go to, everything is going to be right here. We've got the mountains, we've got the skiing, we've got the casinos, we've got all of the beauty and the history right here. We never have to leave the state.
That's right.
So let's talk about another big thing that happened to Huntington, Pullman Square. And I just learned last night, and Jason, you can talk on this a little bit more. Pullman Square was originally supposed to take place in the 70s.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, you find out the history about it, and then you live through what was before Pullman Square. It was called the Super Block. Everybody knew it. And then they started, I can remember people going down there and drag racing and things like that. So it ended up just being this huge lot next to the Civic Center that, to be quite honest, people mocked. They said, oh, yeah, it's going to be this, and this. And the only thing we really got out of it at the time was a Chi-Chi's restaurant on the corner.
And we love Chi-Chi's.
Yeah. It was funny that's what it ended up being. And thank God that you had these investors that said, we're going to be a part of this. We're going to, again, go back to our roots. We're going to utilize the river, utilize the rail, utilize all the transportation. And listen, this has a lot of potential, and they did it. And they finally got it incorporated. The city at the time, with council and the mayors and all that, they all got together and made this thing happen, including our people. We've always backed it. We just needed the initiative. And
right.
Thank God that we do have Pullman Square. It's been a huge hub, and honestly, it's revitalized all the way over to the university now.
I was
Fourth
going to
Avenue
say
and everything.
that's when the upgrading of the streetscape started happening on 4th and 9th Avenue,
right.
or 4th Avenue and 9th Street. I know that, and again, we're kind of going back a little bit in time, but we had the 9th Street Plaza for many, many years, and that was kind of the downtown, air quotes there.
Yeah.
And they closed that up very shortly after Pullman was finished up, and Pullman became that anchor for the north end of the community. That plaza was removed in 2006, and 9th Street is actually making a comeback itself.
It is.
Although it's a thoroughway, it's a pretty cool place with a lot of shops and things like that. So I think, even as someone who loves Huntington as much as I do, we forget exactly how much we have available to us here.
Right. Right.
And then you have some of your really cool stuff that happened, like the pedestrian walkways. We didn't have, you look back and we didn't have crosswalks. We didn't have the streetscapes. We didn't have the lighting. We didn't have any of that for many years. So we've really come a long way, and this sounds crazy to even say out loud because it's 2024, but in the last 30 to 40 years, we've really come a long way here in Huntington. We have.
We definitely have. And again, we talked about this beforehand. It's funny. I feel like we're in a new transition in this city. I know there was kind of some dead space there for a little bit. We go back to our roots and the Industrial Revolution and how things went. And, I think about even my family and the way they were incorporated. My great aunt was a huge part of Central City and building it back up. It turned into just abandoned buildings and lots and gravel. And
that's awesome.
It got built back up. They just put a tower clock and her name down there. And then I think about my grandfather who raised me. His dad died when he was very young of pneumonia, and his mom was actually one of the Rosie the Riveters, and she left him, and here he is like, well, what am I going to do? So he just so happened his grandfather raised him and said, well, son, I'll take you in. And he was a local politician. He had been a deputy sheriff and all these other things. So thankfully he was blessed to have his grandfather during all this
to
take him in. And so I think about now we're on this new turning page with the university and the city to where our cybersecurity. I mean, we're getting forensics. I mean, listen, we're on another boom coming up soon.
I think so too, and I think a lot of that has to do with us getting the phenomenal Brad Smith at Marshall. What a nice man. Very nice man, and God, so smart.
His intellect is unbelievable. His leadership is unbelievable, and there's powers that be that helped get him here. There was a lot of people that kind of were like, whoa, why would we put Brad Smith as a president? What backing does he have for this? And the people that said, what do you mean the backing? This guy is from here. He's unbelievably smart.
He's a Canova kid, right?
Right. Look at his backing and the things that he's got accomplished. What could he do for? Listen, we're blessed to have this guy.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean, look at the infrastructure that's changed since he's been here and how quickly.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw a building get built that quick in Huntington?
I've told people, and it's no secret, I'm running for city council because I want to continue this. This is a passion to me.
Right.
I love this city. I love everything about it. I love our area. But I tell people, we are getting ready to see the new second coming of Huntington. I know it's coming. I want to be a part of it because I think just like with our roots, with all these great innovators, we're right there on the brink, and you're going to see the Brad Smiths and people like that being a huge part of this. And I think that instead of us getting so caught up in negatives and complaining, we need to embrace this and work together to make this happen and give the people what they want back.
Absolutely. I love that. So let's talk about that growth that's happening.
Yeah.
Some of our largest employers in the community today are Marshall University, Cabell Huntington, St. Mary's, Amazon, DirecTV, and the city of Huntington.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that being as a city employee, I didn't realize we were one of the top employers in the community, which it makes sense, but didn't realize it.
Yeah, and it's a testament to our city and the people that believe in it, want to be a part of it. I think that's a great thing, because it could be all these big businesses and things like, we've got our Amazons and things like that. Again, that goes back to the technology boom that we're having right now.
Right, absolutely.
We're really blessed to have that up there.
We
Amazon
really
is a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah, and people just pass it every day and don't give it another thought unless they're employed or know somebody employed there.
Well, that's what I was going to say. A lot of people don't even know that it's there unless they know someone that works there or something to that extent. Let's talk about the culture in Huntington a little bit.
Yeah.
I know we've got a lot of Appalachian and Southern, a little Midwestern, a little Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
But that goes back to, again, all these families that came here originally to start Huntington.
Right.
I think one of our most famous attractions in Huntington is probably the Keith Alley Theater. Let's talk about it a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Listen, you're talking vaudeville, and to a lot of young people, they're like, well, what's that? Google it. That's all I can tell you. You're going to be impressed like you've never seen. We were on the circuit. We were the big deal back then.
We really were.
Thank God the place is getting redone right now as we speak.
Yes.
So that we can keep that rich history that we have. It's one of the only ones left in the country from the original architects and builders. Again, great innovators that wanted to build this theater here. And when you go, I can't even describe in words how beautiful the place is when you go inside there. You do not feel like you are in Huntington, West Virginia.
No.
You would think you're somewhere either in Italy, France, somewhere the architect is unbelievable. And
it really is. And we have people that travel here, and I didn't know this until last night when I was doing some research. When you go to YouTube and look up Huntington, West Virginia, the amount of people that come to Huntington for the theater, just to see it, just to get here and the doors be locked, and they feel like they have made their trip.
Taking pictures outside, everything.
Yeah, it's super
selfies.
Cool.
I remember going to a Tony Bennett concert there, and
showing your age.
Yeah, that's okay. I took my grandfather and I said, we're going to go do this. He was so excited, and I love Tony Bennett.
I was going to say, I bet it was phenomenal.
It was unbelievable, and he told him, hey guys, stop the music. And they did, and he went a cappella, and he sang, and it was just unbelievable. And it was almost like his voice rotated around there. And he said, you all have no idea what you all have here. He said, these acoustics, you couldn't pay. He said, I don't care if you have $50 million. You don't understand what you have here. He said, and I know you're trying to renovate this place. And that very moment, he said, I'm going to donate money tonight to this place.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, very good stuff.
Super cool that you were in the room when he said it on the stage. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Look at you, just being part of history. Being a part of the history that you love.
I try everywhere.
Now, that was built in 1928.
Yeah.
It was the second largest theater in the United States at that time?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool, too.
It's crazy to think of.
Here in Little Old Huntington, that we had the second largest theater in the United States, only behind the Roxy in New York City. So I think that's pretty cool.
Very.
Let's talk about some of our restaurants, some of our historical restaurants and things like that. We've got something we might be known for on a bigger scale. Cam's Ham was on the Food Network's 50 States and 50 Sandwiches for their sugar flaked ham sandwich.
Yeah.
Personally myself am not a fan of that sandwich. I like to go there and get their grilled cheese, which of all things I know is so silly, but I love their grilled cheeses there. Some other restaurants that we're really known for are Jim's Spaghetti.
Oh, yeah.
Can you think of any off the top of your head?
Central City is a big one.
Oh, the cafe.
Yeah, listen,
yes.
and they've been on Food Network.
Their tomato bisque. Oh.
Yeah, they do a great job. It's all family owned and operated. They do
Yes.
a great job down there.
And they keep it so nice. It's so
Yeah.
inviting even on the outside.
And listen, we're talking about history here. I invite everybody to go down there and look at the pictures of the great history of that area
yes,
and
yes,
Huntington
yes.
and everything. It's great.
Central City is beautiful.
But yeah, you've got gyms, which they've got great history and pictures of people. The JFK seat, that's a big deal.
I know it's a little bit out of city limits, but we've got Hillbilly Hot Dogs.
Hillbilly hot dogs, yeah,
That's a big one. A lot of people like to travel here for Hillbilly Hot
got
Dogs.
Stewart's hot dogs.
We got Stewart's.
Yeah.
You can't leave that out.
Frost Top.
Frost Top. Frost Top is the best.
Yeah,
hands
got
down.
Midway down in the West End.
Midway's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's a lunch favorite of mine because it's close to work.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's funny, even when I have family and friends that come from out of town, they make their rounds. They're like, we're going here,
It's like the trip revolves around the food.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And we used to have GD Ritzy's. I know they just recently closed, unfortunately. They're across from the hospital, but people always love GD Ritzy's. And
they really had the best fries.
yeah,
They're so good.
but we're still, we've got our Geno's and our Giovanni's. We got Monty's Pizza. We've got.
We have so much here. And I don't even down to having our own bread factory. I know that's so silly, but I hate when we travel and we're gonna have sandwiches for camping or something. I cannot accept anything less than fresh bread because we live here and we
have quality here.
Yes, we have quality.
So we
here.
now expect quality,
yes,
right?
Yes, I will literally buy bread and take it with me places if I know that we're gonna have to have it. So a little different than what we were just talking about, but something else that we have an ample amount of that a lot of communities just don't have access to is museums.
Yeah.
We've got so many museums. We've got the Museum of Art. The Children's Museum is new. It's down near Central City.
Yeah, it's in my district.
Yeah, we've got the Tuma Museum of Medicine. We've got Heritage Farm and Village, which is doing amazing things. They're getting ready to build a ski situation.
Yes. Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Well, I can't say enough about
tubing
that
and
place.
skiing right
they
here in
have rope
Huntington.
courses. You can go on ATVs. You can do everything there. I mean, it's
WG and I did the zip lining there.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified of heights, and he talked me into that, and that was probably one of my most fun episodes that we've ever done. I think I need to do that before
I
or do it
guarantee
again. But we also have, we have other museums like the Burke Art Gallery. We've got the Huntington Railroad Museum, the Museum of Radio and Technology, and the Thomas Carroll House.
Yeah.
To the naysayers that say there's nothing to do here,
there's plenty to do.
Get out of here.
How many festivals and things do we?
Right.
I mean, there's stuff going on all the time. Listen, things could always be a little bit better. They could also always be a little bit worse. But we have a lot of things going here, and things could, I just don't think that people realize. They just get in a groove of just saying that.
Absolutely.
We have everything that anybody can want, whether you have a little bit of money or a lot of money. There's a lot to do here.
We have so many festivals. We can talk about those a little bit if you can think of it off the top of your head.
Yeah, you talk about the Greek festival. That's a huge one. Chili Fest is
Greek
growing
festival
every
just
year.
Passed, and Chili Fest is getting bigger, yeah.
Yep, and now you're getting into some of the newer ones like the Comic-Con, Rails and Hells, things like that. But you talk about you've had your Civil War days that's been going on forever.
Oh, yeah, down in Guyana.
Rib Fest, things like that.
Hot Dog Festival.
The Museum of Art has always done musics and arts and things like that. The Pancake Festival, we were talking about that one a little bit ago.
We were.
The Kiwanis. That is when you're a kid, you know all about that place.
That
you
place
get
is wonderful.
An unlimited amount of pancakes, sausage, drinks.
The smile on our faces, if you guys could see us right now, we're both in heaven thinking about the pancakes.
Yeah.
We were kind of talking about, and this is a little off topic, but I'm sure it brought some of you guys back to that as well. That the Kiwanis Pancake Festival was held in the old Memorial Fieldhouse.
One of my favorite places, yeah. And we talked about how much, rich history that place had. When you talk about all the music acts that have been there, all the festivals that were held in there, Marshall played basketball there. There was boxing matches. Everything. That was the place to be. And at the time when it was built, it was one of the biggest in the whole eastern coast.
Cool.
It's just unbelievable. And
Jason
unfortunately, funerals too.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Jason shared with me about some of the funerals. The funerals were so big after the Marshall plane crash that they used the field house, and I did not know that. So many of you listening, you're a little bit older than me, so you might remember that. I'm going to plead the fifth on this because it's not my fault. I'm not from here.
Yeah, it's just we've had our goods, our bads, and everything was held in there, and to see it go was just kind of sad. But Marshall did a phenomenal job of incorporating what was, even the plaque.
Yes.
And now we have
that soccer team.
Our soccer team is known internationally.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the real deal here, and again, testament to Marshall and Huntington both.
Right, absolutely. I don't think we can talk about Huntington without talking about Cannon Park.
Absolutely. That's our spot.
That's our spot. That's home for me and Jason both.
Yeah.
Jason's that's where he's running for council in that district. Cannon Park has a big piece of my heart, and I love that my daughter gets to share in that with me. She's 11 years old, and the only thing she wants to do every weekend is go to Cannon Park. And I'm like, basically, yes. Like, we can go to Cannon Park anytime you want to. Like, we can ride the Big Dipper all day long until we puke.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I think it's super cool how Cannon Park became what it is today.
Yeah, me too. I mean, when you talk about, and we talked a bit about this, it started off as a way to just pass time while you were waiting on your transportation.
Yep. It was a hub. It was a meeting place.
That's all it was.
What do we call them today? Park and rides?
Yeah.
It was a park and ride.
It was a park and ride, literally. And now here we are, still way over 100 years, and the place is still going strong.
And it's gone through so many changes over the years. I mean, at one point it was a zoo.
Yeah.
They had elephants. They had
roller skating.
They had.
They had the Camden Bell that went down the river.
They had they had the riverboat.
Yeah.
And that was so cool. If you got to go on it, it was like every 2 hours it ran or something like that. You would literally go ride all the rides that you could, waiting until your time to get on the Camden Bell.
It's a special place, and I
really
wish people
is.
would utilize it more. And I always kind of get defensive when people say things about, I wouldn't ride those rides. That's a rich history as a kid. Think about it. You were a kid, went there. Now you're taking your kids.
Right.
My grandpa used to tell me when he took me that he went there as a kid.
Oh, I love that.
So I love hearing the stories about it. And when you walk into Camden Park, I don't care how old you are, you start getting those memories going back.
Yes.
You see the haunted house, you see the games and the sounds going off, the pronto pups.
And you have to ride the carousel. Like, the carousel is where it all started.
Yeah.
The carousel is where it all started.
And the Big Dipper is always big for everybody.
Yes. And this last time we didn't get to ride the Little Dipper, and we got home and my daughter's like, we didn't ride everything. And I was like, what are you talking about? But there was a daycare there that day, and they kind of overran everything. And then where they were littler, they kept getting on the Little Dipper, so we didn't get on. But still one of my favorites.
Log flume, that's a big one.
Yes, log flume is so fun.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can talk about Huntington without talking about our parks. We are so blessed to have, from the Ritter family, another prominent family that donated space back to the community.
Yeah.
We have Ritter Park, and we have all of the arms of the park as well. We have Memorial Park, McClellan Park, Harveytown, Camp Mad Anthony Wayne, the Paul Ambrose Trail for Health, and we have Beach Fork State Park here. Like, we have, I know it's we call it the beach spoon in my family because we're just goofy, but where do you live that you can take a 10-minute drive and be on a beach?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
sand and everything.
It might not be clear water.
It's a freshwater beach, but that's okay.
But it's a beach.
It is a beach.
If you need sand under your toes, there is a place to go within 10 minutes.
Great trails. They've been working on trying to get a resort kind of put in out there so that people could have a major hotel type place to stay out there. All the different types of fishing and boating, and it's just, we've got a special place here. And I just wish people would realize and quit being so negative and try to help rebuild and revitalize instead of tearing things down.
Absolutely. I think we can probably wrap up with, we've talked about it a lot, but let's talk about it again because it's so monumental. Let's talk about Marshall. Our children get to be sons and daughters of Marshall. Our grandparents were sons and daughters of Marshall. We might even have great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents that helped build Marshall.
Right.
I just am so thankful that the college is here and the sports that they bring. I mean, they've got women's softball, swimming, diving, tennis, volleyball, track and field. men's football, baseball, and both genders of basketball, cross country, golf, and soccer. And I did not know this. You may have, because you know more than me. But we have a rugby union for women and men. We have men's and women's lacrosse, and we have an equestrian team that competes in the Intercollegiate Horse Show Association. Did not know that.
Yeah. People don't realize how big of a deal. I mean, it makes sense, but horses are a big thing around here. I know that
they are. Which
Lexington is just right down.
I didn't think about it, but I had no clue.
People take it very, very serious. They do it on a tournament level, and I'm just glad that Marshall is flourishing and doing so well. And, you know, one thing I've even said to Brad Smith himself is what I like about having him is great leadership leads to great results. And I kind of live by that. You've got to have great leadership to have great results. And we also can go the other direction with the opposite. But, you know, thank God we've got Brad here. His mindset and his connections are unbelievable. And, you know, more importantly, let's think about the people that helped get him here, that talked him into it. You know, yeah, he had some heartstrings. His family's here and things like that. He wanted to settle here. You know, they live down right across from our beautiful park system. Mm-hmm. One of the people that's actually running for mayor is a pivotal person in getting him here, which was Patrick Farrell. Patrick Farrell was huge on getting him here. I did not know that. And a lot of people were saying, no, you know, this isn't a good decision. He said, listen to me. He's unbelievably smart. Look at the leadership roles that he's played on an international level. You don't understand how special this can be. And it's been nothing but ever since he got here. So hats off to him, too.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
There's a lot of players involved, but listen, these are big things that we need to see. And again, I invite everybody to be a part of that. Let's be a part of building this place up instead of tearing it down, and let's work together.
Absolutely. I said we were going to close on Marshall, but we're not going to because I just remembered something.
Okay.
I remembered something else. Let's talk about how our city's run. I think since 1985, we have been under the mayor and strong council leadership.
Correct.
We have had 17 mayors in the history of Huntington. Mm-hmm. Am I right in that?
It sounds right, yeah.
Okay.
Starting with Buffington, yeah.
Yeah, so 17 mayors. How many council? We have 9 council and 2 at large?
2 at large gives you 11 total, yeah.
So, I mean, how cool is it that as a community, you get to elect someone to represent you at every council meeting?
That's a big deal.
It's a very big deal.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so thankful that I can, our current council member lives, our elected council person lives 2 blocks from me. If I need something, I can literally walk my dog and knock on his door. I'm going to be able to do the same thing in the other direction to your house.
Right.
I just think it's a phenomenal situation that we have, and I think a lot of people don't realize that not every community has a council representation.
Not at all. They get what they get.
They get what they get, and you get over it. Not even throw a fit. You
just get over it.
You just get over it.
No, it's a special thing the way the system is here. I think it works very well. You're going to have your goods and bads, your pluses, your minuses. But listen,
you need all the personalities.
You got to have that. You got to have that. And that's the whole point of it, is to have those differences on mindsets and the way of doing things. But more importantly, it is so important to vote in people that are going to represent your people. And we all get that chance. Whereas, like, you know, we said, some people just get what they get. You're getting a chance to go out, make your voice heard, say this is who we want to be our representative, and then that person is supposed to, by all means necessary, represent you, the people. And by doing that, now you, for instance, like with us, District 1 gets to be represented by that one person. He's a piece of the puzzle.
He's a piece of the puzzle.
And that is going to affect the entire city.
Right.
And the way our leadership's going to go and the way we do things. So this is a real special thing. I encourage everybody, make your voice heard, go out and vote, regardless of who it's for. And that way you feel like you do have a voice in your city. Absolutely. All right. Thanks for joining us today, Jason. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Tri-State Time Machine, brought to you by Alex R. White, PLLC, at SueDistractedDriver.com. If you have a memory you want Vanessa to talk more about, just send her an email at tstm@mail.com or post a comment on the Tri-State Time Machine Facebook page. Did you like the episode? Be sure to share it with friends and family. It's the only way we can continue this fun work that we do. You can find a link in the show notes that you can use to share it. And be sure to let our sponsors know you like the podcast as well. Their contact information can be found in this episode's show notes.